Recording. In 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Unhinged Magi. Oh man, we got the numbers. Woo! Yeah, that print run.
So yeah, LSS did release the actual print run of Monarch First Edition.
Yeah. So
I'm sure we're not breaking the news. You guys, if you're watching this video, you probably already know.
Yep.
So all you're gonna get here is our take on it.
Yeah. So actually, what do y'all think? Put it in the comments below right now before we've said even a single word.
Oh wait.
125,000 boxes.
Okay. So we've had several people, Rudy included, by the way, ask for our take on like what we think about this. I know exactly how I feel about it. But before I ramble for a while, what do you think?
Well, sir, it's a lot more than Crucible.
Yeah.
Crucible was only at 37,000 something. 37,000 what? Like change?
37,500 or something like that. Yeah. I can actually check.
That's a huge jump.
37.5.
That's not even double. That's quad? Almost quad.
It's double and a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, no, I think
double than
37,000.
Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising. Here, we'll just show you guys the numbers because we have it right here. Okay, so here's Flesh and Blood's website. This is the Collector's Center. When you come here, you're looking at Welcome to Wrath, as you see. And you got 16,700.
Yeah.
Then you go to Arcane Rising, and it's 16,700.
Yeah.
Then you get Crucible of War, and what you get is 37,500. And then now we finally have Monarch, which was 125,000 displays.
So it's pretty much almost quad. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's almost quad of Crucible, actually. It's almost like 8 times.
It's almost quad of Crucible.
It's almost 8 times of Alpha, like Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising.
So now we're gathering the information. We're getting it now because this is what people didn't know. I mean, a lot of people assumed that it would be 75,000 or something like that, because then it would be double and it'd be following the tradition. Double of Crucible was double of Arcane, so it stood to reason, good logic, that it would not be over 100 grand. I know some people were concerned about that.
There was good. The trend actually said it would either be the same as Crucible or maybe a little over double, because that's what they did before.
Yes.
Arcane was the same as Welcome to Wrath, so they didn't change it. And then Crucible went a little more than double. So there was good reason to think that actually was the area they were going to be,
right.
which was what all people knew when they went in and bought it pre-release.
Yes, and everyone did buy it. I mean, that Monarch spiked like crazy and stayed there during the pre.
Yeah.
And tanked
when the real supply came out.
So, and it's been tanking ever since.
And that has been really important because I'm a firm believer in price discovery, guys. And that constant tanking was the real actual market, the supply constantly coming in and just crushing that price down to where the buyers equalize out on the sellers. So this whole process has actually given me a lot of faith in price discovery, honestly.
Yes, true. But still, it's just mind-boggling to see that, right?
It's disheartening.
Well, look at Tales of Aria, right? So this is 125,000.
Yeah.
So what's Tales of Aria?
Oh, I'm sure it's like 150. 170.
That could be maybe it's 200.
It could be.
It could be 225.
Yeah.
I mean, look at its price currently, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at Monarch's price, and I'm like, well, maybe it is 200,000.
So, let me get this out because it's burning me to not say it. To wait. If people asked what our take is on it, I know exactly how I feel about it. How I feel about it is that there was a lot of excitement before Monarch was released for the people that were the target audience. The collectors, investors, early adopters, they were the target audience for that Monarch First Edition, and they were very excited.
They were.
And they bid that price all the way up to $600 a box. That was a verified way to see their excitement and their hope into the value of those cards. And it was the supply that came crushing it down. And that's what we've been saying for a while. But we now have the data to show that it was the supply. And some people are looking at this 125,000 and saying like, I guess that's okay. That's about what I expected. I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with it.
No.
And here's why I'm not okay with it. Because the people who bought it were led to believe it would be rare. They were led to believe it would not be in these large quantities. And they bought it as they were being led to believe by LSS at like the kind of values that they were expecting. And when the values were so much higher, people like, I hear a lot of people like, especially in the comments, like, oh, well, but they bought it way over map, so it's their fault. No, guys. This product was intended to go up in value. It should never be at map for first edition. So when those people paid that $600 a box for Monarch, that should have probably been close to where it should have been evaluated at. And now when I look at this, 125,000, what should have been maybe 37 to 75,000.
Yeah.
I see why it went from $600 a box down. And so what effectively happened is the price that's at the market today might be close to the price it should be at, maybe. We'll see if more supply comes in. But more importantly, this very much means that those people who bought it as they should have did get crushed by the overprinting of LSS.
Yes. And specifically targeting collectors and investors.
Yep.
That was complete. Yeah, he said it was for collectors only. It was going to be kept to a minimum. It wasn't going to be,
Any of you that say these people are evil investors, you got to drop that attitude. It's wrong. It's literally wrong because you got unlimited for the players. You got first edition for the collectors investors. Collectors investors bought it. They had reasons to believe it was lower print than what it was, and they got crushed by the oversupply.
That they did. And if you want to understand, we have a visual model for you.
We actually do. Why don't we go to the down camera, Dan?
Yeah, let's go to the down
because there's some craziness that can happen actually with that.
Yes. All right. So we have our original Arcane Rising. This is not Arcane Rising, but as you can see, there's 16 cards.
Yeah, so imagine that every one of these cards here, guys, represents 1,000 boxes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,000. Because it was 16,700 of the Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising.
That's right. All right. Now,
that was the first two sets.
Okay. So that's a stack like that. Not too bad.
Yep.
Then we have Arcane Rising.
Well, no. Crucible.
Oh, Crucible.
Because this was Welcome to Wrath and Arcane Rising.
So now we have Crucible. Crucible's up to 37. And we are now expanding out. So this is now on top of that for Crucible.
Yep. So Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wrath were this. Crucible came out and did this for its number of first editions that are actually printed. Well, then what happened is Monarch came out and, well, hey, you know what everybody thought Monarch should have been? Let's show them where Monarch should have been.
Okay. Monarch should have been right here.
Either this size or maybe adding in this many more.
Right? And we figured it to be about 75.
About 75.
Let's go 75. All right. So that's this much.
So that should have been the maximum. The highest that it should have gone was 75, right? And here's what we've got for 75. It should not have gone above this.
Right. And that's
But what did they actually do, Dan?
They added this. Now these are empty. This is what they shouldn't have done.
Yep.
And so now you have that extra pile there.
Now remember, only those like first 16, if I can count those out again.
You can. It's just over to Corsham.
Over to Corsham?
Yeah, you're there. That's it. 3. You need 3. Just 3.
Just 3 Corshams?
Just 3.
Okay. Yeah. So this is all that was there for Welcome to Wrath and for Arcane Rising. And then Crucible came out and just barely over doubled this. And then they did this for Monarch. That is the problem, you guys.
It's crazy. You know? And when there should be no reason to actually have done that, to like explode it. Yeah. Especially when you actually tell your audience, tell your consumer, dude, this was going to be really a tight print run. We're not going to print that many. It's just, We're not going to print that many. It's going to be good.
It's going to be for you collectors.
You collectors.
You're going to chase these.
Yeah.
And collectability is a
foils.
core tenet.
Cold foils are a collectible item. They're going to be extraordinarily rare.
And then this is what happened.
And then they printed that.
So do collectors, investors have a reason to be frustrated? Yes.
Absolutely.
100%. Is the current price of Monarch First Edition maybe a valid price? It might be. It might be. That doesn't mean that it's good, but it might be.
Yeah.
But you know, it could still happen. Is there could still be pockets. You could have had at this very moment people sitting on all kinds of boxes of Monarch First Edition that they didn't want to crack or they didn't want to sell because they were holding out hope that the print run was lower.
Yeah.
That when these numbers were printed, that it came out like 50,000 boxes, 60,000 boxes. So they were hoping that, like, hey, everyone's going to realize it's not as bad as they thought. And then they'd be sitting on a bunch of money and they could get their money back because they might have bought them at $600 a box.
Yeah.
That might have happened. So you could see supply come gushing into the market, dropping prices even more. That could happen.
That could happen. I wonder how many pallets are left out there.
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, just sitting around.
Pallets of Monarch First Edition. I don't know. And you know, it's also one other interesting point. We made a video at Rudy's house with you and me and Saint and Rudy. And he went around the room asking us like how big we thought the Monarch print run was. And we were just throwing numbers out.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I went back and I rewatched. In fact, we should link the video here.
Okay.
But what's funny is I guessed 110,000. You guessed 140. And like 125 is actually directly halfway in between us. It's 15 above me and 15 below you. So
yeah, I picked something ridiculous.
If someone took our two answers and averaged it out, that was like dead on the money.
Yeah.
It was just kind of funny.
I just figured I'd pick something insane.
But this also is important to mention that, like, any of you that thought Rudy had inside information, he clearly didn't.
He didn't.
Because he was out there buying boxes at $200 a box and kind of laughing like, okay, guys, sell them to me. I'll buy them at 200.
Exactly.
And he got crushed. So,
yeah, I remember he was advertising that all the time.
So don't think for a second Rudy's even happy about this number of cards being printed.
Yep.
It's not good.
That's not good.
So how does LSS get credibility back? How do they get faith back? That's a question. Maybe not for this video, but
yeah,
that's a question they need to be asking themselves.
Or do they want it? Maybe they don't want that. They
don't
don't want it. They don't want the collectors to come back, and maybe they do just want a player-based game and have it expand on its own.
If LSS wants that, it's their game. It's their call. It's totally up to them. That's totally fine. The one thing is, tell people. If that's the direction you're taking it, then tell people. Because really, honestly, the core problem here is not that they made 125,000 displays. It's that they led people to believe there would be less, and then they printed a bunch. It was that disconnection of leading people to think something and then giving them something else. That was the problem.
Yeah. So I wonder what their next move is, right? Because now it's a player-based game, right? We can always say that it's a player-based game.
Yeah, it's not the collectors holding it up at this point.
No. But what is the player base? So far, I haven't been able to find the data that suggests that the player base even has enough to even absorb 125,000 boxes.
Yeah, it's a good question, guys. Like, how many actual players are out there? Is there a way to actually know? I mean, you can guesstimate based on the number of people that attend events and the people that sign up for certain services and things, but I don't know, is there a really good way to know how many people are in it?
Yeah. I mean,
but they're doing a Pro Tour thing now, right?
They are.
Maybe that will be a way to know, because people will sign up for the Pro Tour and then you'll get some kind of sense of the number of people.
There's a difference. Like Magic the Gathering has millions of people. They hold a Pro Tour and very little people show up relative to the game size.
True.
Right?
True.
And that's the same thing. You're going to get just the hardcore players to show up to tournaments.
True.
What we want to know is how big the player base is.
That's true.
And that's
tough to know.
That's hard to know. Even with that, even though the tournament players and people that go to their little game rooms and game stores, there's no real way to tell to see how many people are actually playing and buying the cards.
Another interesting aspect that's maybe for another video is like the number of casuals, because Magic has a lot of casual players, especially because Magic has formats that support it with like EDH, Commander, Pauper. There's definitely formats that support casual players. I don't know if that exists the same extent in Flesh and Blood, because it seems like much more kind of competitive focus. So at least right now, I don't know if there's a big casual kind of scene.
I think if they ever came out with like player versus environment, then you would have a ton of casual players.
And something like an EDH kind of equivalent that like multiple people can play, and it's like it's much more laid back. It's kind of for the fun of it. I think Flesh and Blood needs that. But that's a whole different video.
I think that would explain the player base if they did players versus environment. Like we saw when we went to the convention the one time, those people trying to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would actually, I think that would actually speed it up. Because people like to have group settings. They don't, some people can't travel to tournaments and that kind of stuff. Tournaments are cool. Don't get me wrong, tournaments cool. Fine. But it's not really going to broaden the player base as much as people think that it does.
Yep. So there you go, guys. That's our take on the 125,000 displays. That's how we feel about it. It's about exactly what we thought. We don't think it's good. We think it was a very bad thing, and we feel really bad for the people that were spending $600 a box, believing the whole storyline about it's going to be very rare. That sucks for them, honestly.
Yeah, that was a bad move.
Okay, so thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend.
All right, have a good one, guys.